Yeah, the recording has started. Good evening, everyone. Today, I'll be demonstrating how you can use LM Studios to run a number of large language models locally and use them via their APIs or like expose them on a server endpoint on your system and your code can use them locally. This can be used for a lot of scenarios when you don't want the data to leave your local instance or when you want a agent capable of learning large language model and so on. So let's start with the demo. So first thing you'll have to do is you have to go to LM Studios, lmstudio.ai, and download the LM Studio for whatever version you want to use it with. Okay, it supports M1 Max, Windows, and Linux. I'm going to do it for Windows. Already have it installed. So once you install it, it's a straight up installation. You don't have to worry about anything. It's suppose you can see the number of models it supports from Hugging Face and so on. Once you have it installed, I'm just going to do ALM Studio. It's starting up. This would give you like a UI to access the large language model as well. Okay. Now this is how the UI would look. You have an option of create any number of chats. Over here, we are querying a GPT model. We are querying a file using Gemma 2 and so on. In the developer preview, you have an option to start a server where your model will be running and access it via REST APIs. We will be looking into this later, but first, let's just look at the normal chat functionality. I'm just going to repeat this. So I'm going to create a new chat. Now, which model do I want to use? The option is up to me. I already have Gemma 2 installed, but if needed something else, let's say I want to go for Llama, I can search for Llama, and whichever model I want, I can get it. It supports all model like Llama, then Gemma, and few other models, a series of models available on Hugging Face. It uses those. But for now, I'm going to show the demo with Gemma 2 with 2 billion parameters because it is quicker to run and is not that resource intensive. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to select my model. My model is selected. Let's see. Let's wait a couple of minutes. Yeah, the model is selected. Let's name it. Let's name it something. I'm going to rename query PDF2. Let's call it query PDF2. What are we going to do is we're going to query a PDF file using Gemma 2 and LM Studio. Okay. I have an option to upload a file. So these are a bunch of research papers. So let's take a research paper over here. I'm going to go with this GPT alone. This is the research paper I'm well familiar with. So this research paper looks into how large language models and different prompt engineering techniques can be used for grading human written essays. They have a standard approach and they do something called a comparative judgment approach. And based on the comparative and the result of the paper is using the comparative judgment approach, the performance is significantly improved. So we're just gonna query it based on that. So I'm just gonna ask it, how did using the comparative judgment approach change the performance? So CJ is short for comparative judgment, and I'm gonna hit send. Now using the model and its own internal agent calls and drag, it's gonna go through the document and then query the entire document, find the relevant part, and give us the answer. Depending on your system, this might take some time. I am running a very standard system. I have 16 GB RAM and i7 processor, I guess. Yeah. So this is gonna take like a couple of minutes. Let's wait. Basically, what's gonna happen is it's gonna generate. So this is the same question I did earlier. It was able to tell me exactly how it says in the paper that CJ considerably improves the performance compared to traditional Rubik's space method in essay grading. But we're just gonna wait for it to finish, and then I'm gonna show you how you can use it with as an API running locally. But the idea is that right now it is running locally. Later on, if you have your own large language model in your private Hugging Face repository, you can run it on this, expose it directly as an API without having to worry about Flask and Fast API or Nginx and call it from there anywhere. But this is a very resource intensive application. If I show you my resource optimization, I can see my memory is all at 97%. And in this series later on, when we'll be exploring Olama, that is a very CPU intensive. That's gonna really push my CPU. So while this is taking place, I'm just gonna do one thing. I'm gonna go in my developer preview. I'm gonna select my model. Is ready, is loaded, or else you can eject it and load some other model, whichever you want. You have some model related configurations over here, which you can do. You have Workbrowse logging options on server side, and the port on which it will work. Okay, I'm just gonna start a server. So the server has started. Now this UI has nothing to do with the server. The server I just started up for the next part, so don't worry too much about it. Both run independently of each other. The idea of having the server is that I can call it via the chat completion API of the model. This is your standard Python using requests and have it generate a response for me. So earlier when I was working with it, the same model, the Gemma 2 model with 2 billion parameters, I asked it answers in rhyme and introduce yourself. And this is just a function you need to process the output the model generates. And as a language model built to be bright with words, I can weave day and night from Google's vast storehouse. I came ready to rhyme, ready to game. So ask away your query, I'll take and craft a response for your sake. So you can see this works quite well as an API. And yeah, our chat prompt is also done. It gives a citation of what all it used. Over here, once again, you can see CJ-based scoring was more efficient than traditional rubric-based method. It was able to extract this from the research paper. Now let's do something else. Let's take a picture. I'm gonna take an oh, I think Gemma 2 doesn't support images. It supports text. For images, we'll have to use some other model. Let's say Lava or Llama, but okay, I'll save that for another demo when I'll show you Olama. But right now, okay, I have so the this is UI part of LM Studio. You can change the model you're using from this drop down. And yeah, in the developer mode, I have right now deployed Gemma 2 model running on my local machine. You can see it is at localhost. I'm gonna call this API where the model is running right now and ask it to always answer in rhyme. I'm gonna say tell me joke. Depending on your system configuration, the time it takes to answer varies. This is running on CPU. So yeah, it took 5.7 seconds. We have a response score of 200. That means it is success. If you look at server logs, you'll be getting the server logs. You can see what input message it got, the HTTP post. These are your server logs. This is LM Studio, and yeah, this is back. And if I print it, okay, why did the golfer wear two pair of pants? In case he got a hole in one, you understand? So this is how you can use, let's save this one. Yeah, this is how you can use LM Studio to run large language models locally, both while having a UI as well as while having a API access to it. There are other ways of accessing this API as well through LangChain, but that is quite similar to how you do with Olama, so that we'll be covering in the Olama tutorial. Thank you, everyone.